Before I jump into it, I am required by Compliance Department with Farm Bureau to throw out a couple of disclaimers, okay? The information provided is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered as tax or legal advice. A tax advisor or an attorney should be consulted to review your particular circumstances. This presentation is considered an insurance sales presentation in your state, or could be considered insurance presentation, sales presentation. Neither Farm Bureau agents nor Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company or its estate planners or representatives are authorized to give tax, legal, or accounting advice. Okay? So, a little bit of my personal background. She covered some of it, but I grew up in Kissimmee, Florida. I'm a third-generation Floridian, but back in the day, I realized I was a mountains person. So I love the change of seasons. The last couple of mornings up here have been beautiful, nice and cool. Gets hot during the day, but I love this time of year. I moved to North Carolina, western part of North Carolina, 30 years ago to attend school. I met my wife while we were both in school, and we both graduated. My problem came in the fact that I realized I'm a mountains person, but she is equally devoted to the beach. So it's her turn. We have one son. He is a senior, hopefully graduating in December, up in Appalachian State University up in Boone, North Carolina. So I get my mountains fixed by going up to visit him. He hopes to come down here once he graduates, but we'll kind of see where his degree takes him. Besides that, we've got a 5.5-year-old black lab who is the center of our world in our house right now. He was a COVID baby, so he's every bit as spoiled as you would imagine. So I want you to imagine this, okay? You spent your entire life building the farm. You've worked the land, invested in the equipment, and poured your energy into making it successful. But one day, whether by choice or by circumstance, you'll need to take a step back. The big question is, what happens next? Will your farm continue on smoothly into the next generation? Or will it face conflict, confusion, or even collapse because there wasn't a clear plan? That's where this transition planning comes in today. Today we'll walk through some of the key steps in the farm business transition workbook, a resource designed to help families like yours create a clear and effective plan for the future. Here's how we're going to spend the next 35 to 45 minutes. First, we're going to talk about why transition planning matters. Then we'll explore how to set goals and get started. Next, we'll look at assessing your business and choosing successors. We'll review legal and financial tools that you may need. And finally, we'll discuss the most important piece, communicating it with the family. And by the end, you'll have a somewhat clear idea of what steps to take and how this workbook can guide you. Okay. As she said before, I'm officially an estate planning specialist with Southern Farm Bureau. My services are provided to Farm Bureau families as a member benefit, as part of the benefit or membership dues that you pay within the county. My territory covers from just south of Ocala all the way out to the Panhandle. And the way I divide it up is the Central Time Zone. I'm usually in that area for 1 week every month. If you are a Farm Bureau member, you're more than welcome to contact your agent and they can set up an appointment. Now, everybody's case is different. There's no cookie cutter way to put this together. The workbook that you have, really what that does is that kind of brings everything to the surface. And from there, we can start looking at different plans and different ideas to kind of help it go the way you want it to go. I believe Mr. Mayo mentioned before that if you don't have a plan, that's not a problem. The state of Florida is going to design a plan for you. It may not be the way you wanted it, but at that point, that's what you got. So it's really about a matter of taking control now and making sure that that's how you want it to go. I was letting him know that this past year I've had over 300 interviews with Farm Bureau families, and I can still count on one hand how many people have just the basics: a will, power of attorney, living will or medical health care directive. Those are just the basics at anybody's estate planning, whether you own property, don't own property, have a family, don't have a family. Those are items that you need to have. It can be as simple as some online services and doing it yourself, or contacting an attorney to help you go through those processes. But those are the 3 documents that everybody should have. Okay. Why transition planning matters. You know, farms are unique businesses because they aren't just about profit. They're about family, legacy, and identity. But here's the reality. Many farm families don't survive until the next generation, not because they aren't profitable, but because there wasn't a plan. When I first started with Farm Bureau in North Carolina, I was in a little county called Henderson, North Carolina, Hendersonville. Hendersonville was the town, but Henderson County was the county. Okay, western part of the state, they got rocked last year with the storms and the hurricane that came through, Helene. But when I started, there was 23 dairy farms, and that was in 2003. Now there's 0. My first couple years, when I'd hear about a farmer passing, within 3 months there was a for sale sign on that property. My first thought as an agent was, the greedy kids just wanted their money. Problem was, the overall estate tax exemption at that time was $600,000. They couldn't afford to keep it. So a lot of it was, because of the taxes that needed to be paid, but a lot of it was, there was some greed involved in the family fighting. So that's why, there's no more farms, no more dairy farms, at least in Henderson County. Without a transition plan, we risk family conflict, financial instability, or in the worst case, being forced to sell the farm. With the plan in place, we gain a smoother transition of management and ownership, family harmony, because expectations are clear, financial savings through careful tax, legal, and life insurance strategies, and ultimately peace of mind. Let me ask you, how many of you have had an open conversation about who will take over the farm someday? A couple hands. All right. For many families, it is easier to put it off, but planning now avoids the heartache later. Getting started, visions and goals. I call this section the why. Transition planning starts with one simple question. What do you want for the future of your farm and your family? The workbook guides you through setting personal, family, and business goals. For example, parents may want to retire with income and security. Children may want to expand into new crops and enterprises. There are some siblings that may want fairness in inheritance, even if not all of them are farming. We call that estate equalization. They don't want to jump in with the operations, but you want to make sure that they're felt like they're an equal. That's why goals are so important. They clarify what you do, why you want to do it, and then who's responsible. I'd like for you to take a moment and think of your top 2 personal goals for your farm transition. Is it financial security, passing the land intact, reducing debt, or maybe mentoring the next generation? These goals provide vision and will drive every decision that you make, and they will need to be shared, discussed, and written down, not just kept in your head. So where do we start? Once we have the vision, now we can start with the planning. Once you know where you want to go, the next step is figuring out where you are right now. That's where the workbook comes in. That's putting everything, again, what I tell my clients when I meet with them is we need to bring everything to the surface, and then let's figure it out from there. This means taking a good look at your business structure and resources. And this workbook includes tools for listing the assets and who owns them between personal and business. And that's the biggest thing that when I talk to either small business owners or farmers, is there's a lot of items that muddy that water. You've got a work truck that's really the farm's work truck, but it's in your personal name. There's some legal issues that can come along with that too. So it's, again, figuring it out from the beginning and then start making some corrections. Understanding your legal structure. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you a partnership? If you're an LLC, do you treat yourself tax-wise as a C Corp or an S Corp? And then are you a C Corp or an S Corporation? Creating a resource inventory, everything from land, the livestock, to machinery, to your financial assets. Then reviewing your financial condition using key ratios like liquidity, solvency, and profitability. This process can seem overwhelming, but it is absolutely necessary. You can't pass on what you don't fully understand. And it helps avoid surprises later. For instance, if mom and dad own the land, but the business entity owns the equipment, you need to know that before you decide how to transition the ownership. Next step would be choosing successors and management transition. Now we come to one of the most delicate parts of transition planning. Who's going to take over and how? Ownership transfer is not the same as management transfer. You can give your kids shares in a business, but that doesn't mean they're ready to manage it. A good plan involves gradually shifting responsibilities, production decisions, marketing, and financial management, along with labor supervision. The senior generation needs to mentor the next generation. Here's a key point that we sort of touched on just a minute ago. Fair is not always equal. Not every child may want to farm. Some may want to inherit land or financial assets, while one child may want to take over the operation. The workbook helps families through these differences. Think for a moment, if you stepped away tomorrow, what's the one responsibility you would need to pass on immediately? Marketing, bookkeeping, herd management? You want to identify these responsibilities now, and it helps you prepare your successor step by step. A personal story on that matter. I've got a cousin that lives over in the Panhandle in Bay County. He owns a very successful sanitation business, was thriving, lots of county contracts, city contracts. One day he was out in one of his collector's vehicles and had a terrible car accident. He wound up with a traumatic brain injury, and this business, we had no idea what was going to happen to it. By the grace of God, he had hired a CFO about 6 months prior to his accident. The family didn't really know that there was a plan in place. So we're very thankful that he is still with us and survived that accident, but we're even more thankful that his business survived this transition. His wife has been able to step in and kind of run it, obviously leaning on the CFO for the daily decisions, but it's been able to keep the family afloat. So the next step would be the legal and the financial tools. Of course, no transition plan is complete without the right legal and financial tools. This is where professionals, your attorney, accountants, or CPAs, financial advisors, an estate planner are essential. Some tools that you may need on the legal side will include wills and estate plans, trust to manage the assets, buy-sell agreements between the partners if you have a partner. Buy-sell agreement can also be between the children. Operating agreements for the LLC or the corporations. Life insurance policies to provide liquidity at their transition. Most farms, they have a liquidity problem. Life insurance is there to inject liquidity into the operation so that everything just continues on until the transition's done. Retirement planning accounts to provide income for older generations. What I say here is go ahead and build you a team. Have the accountant on board and have them talk to the lawyer. As an estate planner, I offer my services to talk to both of them. It's just a matter of building that team so that the vision and the plan that you guys have, that the steps taken in place, and that everybody plays a part. Every family situation is unique, so this is not a do-it-yourself step. The workbook helps you organize your information so that your advisors can give you the best possible guidance. The next step is communication and family dynamics. Here's the truth. You can have the best legal documents in the world, but if your family isn't talking, the plan won't work. Transition planning requires honest, respectful communication. That means family meetings, written agendas, and sometimes a neutral facilitator. I have been called to the farm to be that neutral. At that time, I just say, call me Switzerland. Remember, this isn't just about business, it's about relationship, and the plan is only as strong as the conversations behind it. The next step is the call to action. So let's review sort of what we've gone over. Transition matters because it protects your farm, your family, and your future. It starts with setting clear goals. It requires a full assessment of your business and resources. It means preparing successors and shifting management. And it relies on legal tools and open conversation. My challenge to you is to not to put it off. Everybody's heard the adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Take one step this month, whether it be filling out the first worksheet or scheduling a family meeting or calling your attorney, CPA, financial advisor, or if you're a Farm Bureau member, your estate planning specialist. Your future is worth the effort. I wanted to share a quick story before I take some questions. I was meeting with a farm family back in February. They're out of Madison County. And what was interesting about this couple was, every town, you've got 2 or 3 family names. If you hear the family name, you know that they've been there for a while. They know everybody. They know everybody's history. They know who dated who in high school. They know everything. Well, this is one of those families for Osceola County. You just knew that they knew all about it. Well, because of the boom and the land prices and everything else that's going on down in Osceola and Orange County, they were moving their operation, and they did move their operation up to Madison County. So when I met with them, we got to talking, and we got to reminiscing about the old area, the catfish place, if it was still open. A lot of the different people that we knew. One of the funniest things is his financial advisor was a boy I went to high school with. And I would never put money with him, but but we all grow up, so he's probably doing okay. But we met, we had a great conversation, about 2 hours. We started putting some things together, and we were going to meet again. Well, about 2 weeks after that meeting, his wife had a medical condition and wound up passing. Both of them were in their upper 50s. I'm 54. I don't consider that old. Of course, I still think I'm 30 sometimes, but it was shocking to me because of the fact that life is precious, and here was somebody I just met, and then 2 weeks later, they weren't with us anymore. Now his planning looked completely different. So I say that story by, just remember, we're never promised tomorrow. So any type of planning and any type of effort you put towards this now is going to go a long way.